a good spot to set it down.
Huh?
That might be a good spot to set it down.
Here. That's smart. That's smart. We're the product on display.
Welcome to our first founder series here in Seattle. Thank you. My name is Greg Sambaga. I am actually part of the team here in B8ta Seattle. If you guys don't know what B8ta Seattle, B8ta is, we're a software retail store in a nutshell. Basically, we are a software-powered retailer that provides an out-of-the-box experience. Thank you all for coming. Especially thank you to our panelists and our moderator. Our moderator tonight is Michelle Lee from King 5. And our panelists are Haley from Peddler Brewing, Mike from Rad Power Bikes, who actually he's been a partner with B8ta for quite some time, and we love having him. Dan from Glowforge. David and Tabb from Freefly Systems, which actually they just signed a contract with us to be a partner.
Can we separate the names so I know who's clapping for who? You lumped us together.
What? Without further ado,
I know, I'm not good.
Okay, so we have curated a very long list of questions, but I think because we want to be able to have you guys ask questions, we will do half this much. So, and if there's any point in time, since we're all community, you want to shout out and ask a question or a follow-up, just do it. We're all friends, so it's perfect. I'll start out with a really easy one. Maybe if just, if you guys all really want to answer these questions, you can, but just, I think maybe like 2 or 3 at a time is probably okay. When or how did you know that your passion could actually be more than a hobby? And was it something that you actually had to work toward, or was there like a light bulb moment? How did it work for you? Don't all go at once.
All right. I'll jump in. So, Glowforge is my 4th company. I started a company that was doing cloud service for camera phones, and then a company that was doing comparison shopping. And both of those were very much like, I want to start a startup and I want to start a company. I'm excited about this technology. And then I did something just crazy for fun. I was sitting with my kids and they wanted to play Chutes and Ladders because I have, at the time, 4-year-old twins. And I was horrified by that. So we invented a game together. And I got really excited about this, and it was something I wanted to share with the world. So I put it up on Kickstarter, and it turned into this sort of Kickstarter phenomenon, a board game called Robot Turtles. And it was the first time I did something just because I loved it so much and wanted to do it. I had no intention of turning it into a business, but it kind of pulled me there. And then in prototyping for that, discovered this strange technology. It was kind of backwater, but like created in the 80s and never really advanced laser cutting engraving technology, and fell in love a second time. And so I wound up licensing out the board game business to a partner and set out on a mission to go make this technology available to people so other people could create the same way I'd gotten to create. And this finally, after 3 other companies, this finally really felt like my life's calling. And so that was when I said, okay, this is the thing I really want to build and to grow. And that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years and change, and no signs of letting up.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I've got kind of a funny story. So I had a job that I really didn't like, doing sales, and I was doing photography on the side and kind of marketing these aerial photos I was taking from drones. And when I really knew it could be something, I had an inbound request for a job, but I had a really busy week at work, so I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to do that job. So when I sent out the bid, I just bid this insane high number. I bid like $100,000 for this job to take photos in Aspen of some new construction. And they called and said, yeah, that's good. Can you be down here next week to do it? And I was like, wow, this is an inflection point. Now it's go time. So I had to like quickly call a friend, figure out if they could help quit the first job, and it's been on ever since then for me.
Thanks for the tip.
Yeah. Bid high.
Anyone else want to jump in?
And that was actually the last time it's been easy to make money in my whole life.
Okay, well, what were your challenges the first year of your business? And how'd you overcome them?
I guess I can jump in for that. So my husband and I started Peddler Brewing Company, and if you have not had our beer, please drink it so I don't have to carry a full keg back with me. And we were completely DIY, self-funded, bootstrap operation. And so for our first year, it was a lot of work of just keeping going. We had our day jobs at the time, and we would come home at the end of the day and go straight into this warehouse once we started renting it and remodeling it ourselves, and figuring out how to start a business and what forms you need to fill out and what bills to pay and all of those things. And so it was for us just a matter of momentum. I don't know if I could ever do that again. But it was really fun. And then as far as the self-funding part of it, it was, taking our savings and putting it into the business. And then each month, when we, had paid our bills, whatever we had left over from our day jobs, we threw into the business account and just keeping that going as long as we could. So it was definitely not the approach that most people take, but we fully own our business. We always have. We don't have loans. Everything has been really successful because of us putting all of our time and energy into it.
Wow. What about, how does that differ from how long have you been in business? How does that differ from the first year to the second year to the third year? I mean, is there a point where you're like,
there was
okay,
a point where I had a day off. It was a good day. So we opened our doors 5.5 years ago, and my husband and I exclusively ran the business in the tasting room with our day jobs for about 6 months, then quit our day jobs so that we could be open more days of the week and brew more beer, and then hired on my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, about a year after being open, and it was just the three of us for another year. And then we expanded our space and we had to hire employees. So it was probably about a year of just us and then another year with one other person. And now we have managers and employees, and I have weekends off. So that's it.
Did you all have day jobs while you were doing, your big project? I mean, other day jobs besides the one that you're doing.
In the
did you have to
beginning,
balance that?
Very beginning, yeah.
I mean, for us, for me, when you go back, it wasn't like there was a clear delineation of now you own a successful business. It was or you got this crazy idea, and maybe some money starts flowing in, but you're kind of tiptoeing out on the ice. You're like, is this a real thing, or am I about to get just dunked? And so it happens incrementally over time. And I think the tough thing for us in the first year was really coming to grips with the fact that this was going to be something that was going to continue and grow and start behaving in that manner. And then also there's a constant problem that every business has, unless you're just a crazy venture funded madness company, is cash flow. Mm-hmm. You get, you sell some things and you have a moment where you're like, wow, I'm pretty rich. And then you have to realize that you have to buy twice as many for the next order. You're like, wow, I'm pretty poor.
I think the other difference, in the first year versus the years after, is in the first year you kind of have everything in your head, and you have so few people that you kind of all just know what's happening. You don't even have to really write anything down. But then when you start bringing in more people, you realize you have to have some systems in place or things go really badly. So, yeah.
I bet. And how many people work for you guys?
Right now, are we 40, 45, something like that?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, 45.
But managing Cindy is 3 people, so I just round up to 50.
I feel like we should invite her up here.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, so one of the challenges I think all these businesses in the panel have in common is that we're hardware startups, and a lot of us we're all bootstrapped, or we started with kind of the crowdfunding as backing us. So that means we have products that everyone wants, whether it's beer or 3D laser cutters or electric bikes. For us, it's always been keeping up with demand and doing that without taking on $1 of funding. So I think you can't say enough about the value of doing that. It forces you to build a sustainable business. It forces you to find people that are purely passion driven to join your team, because they're not going to be making 6 figures out of the gate. They're going to be taking a bit of a haircut, but the passion and the day to day, it just makes it all worth it. So in the end, I think maybe I speak for all of us here, just being bootstrapped, it's really hard, but I think it really is worth it in the long run.
I'm the odd man
really
out.
Fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
I'm the odd man out because we raised about 40 million of venture capital and took about 60 million in pre-orders before we shipped our first product. So when you get a Glowforge, there's $100 million worth of goodness in that box. But that said, my immediate prior project of Robot Turtles, the board game, was just entirely self-funded, done at home. Took some time off of, had a real job because Google had bought my previous company, so I worked there for a while. Took a leave of absence, stayed at home with the kids, and cooked this thing up, and then did everything myself from start to finish. Found the factory in North Carolina that did the board game printing, did a Kickstarter, did the shipping, the whole 9 yards. I hired the babysitter to help me. That was about it. So both sides, and it's really rewarding to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Just a tip, you can always identify the venture-backed guy because he's dressed a little bit nicer than
I was gonna say, knowing what you know now about how to get funding, would you do it the same way?
I mean, I've done it every which way. So I've done angel-backed, I've done self-funded, I've done venture-backed, and they're all just a question of what's right for the business. So taking venture money for a brewery would be a terrible mistake. It would make everybody sad and mad at each other. And doing what we were doing any other way just wouldn't have been possible because there was so much research and development that had to go into making it. The molds for the plastic case for a Glowforge cost almost $500,000 just for one mold for one case. And so that's not the sort of thing you can bootstrap. And that's a difficult match to figure out what's the right way to fund your business.
It sounds like there would be a lot of growing pains. You don't just go to a class and figure out how to get funding and how to start your business and how to manufacture all those things, right? So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's got this idea but they don't know really where to start?
I think the most important thing is right product, right place, right time, because then the funding, it happens, the partners, they happen organically. If you don't have that right match, maybe it's not the right time, maybe it's not the right product, then you need to adjust until you kind of have that match. Because I'm in the same way, this is my third or fourth startup, and the past ones you learn a lot along the way and kind of adjust, and then things just take off like wildfire when there's that right match.
How has it changed for you guys to be kind of, these inventors and these creative types to become CEOs?
It hasn't. Is that bad?
Okay, no, that's good. No difference? No difference?
No, it's different. I mean, you only get to invent half the day. You gotta you gotta put in your time on the spreadsheets and teams and managing and that kind of thing. And then if you do a great job of that, and you carve off a little chunk to go try and figure out what you're gonna do in the future, that's what keeps me going.
Man, it is one of the happiest times in my month when our CTO comes by and is I'm stuck on a problem. Could you help with this? I'm I need to work on doing something. And your job changes rapidly as the company grows, and figuring out what it should change into is one of the hardest jobs. Figuring out what it is that you can do to add value, and more often than not, the answer is support your team. So that becomes the core, but you never stop doing little things. And there's always something it's a little thing and you're gosh, I could go ask somebody to do it, but by the time I've done that, I could have just done it myself. So you get your hands dirty from time to time. You have to be willing to, we were talking about this, take out the garbage, scrub the windows, whatever needs to be done. But you're just getting into that business of trying to make other people more effective instead of doing it yourself.
Then how do you continue to kind of feed that creative beast inside of you? How do you continue to be creative?
Personally, I design stuff to print on my Glowforge at home.
We keep drinking.
Yeah.
It's really good.
All the juices flowing.
I do that in writing stories too sometimes.
Dave uses a similar technique as well.
Yeah. Drinking or using the product?
Drinking. And then using the product, but yeah.
But so that's been really important for me. Is it's easy because I just commute every day on an e-bike. But being close to your product, I think you hear that from a lot of CEOs is that you get further and further away from your product, and that's when quality things will come up, and that's when the product will start kind of depreciating it. And so just maintain that laser focus on the product and living and breathing the product or drinking it.
Well, kind of adding to that, how do you keep a community and grow a community around your product to keep people engaged and excited about what you're doing?
I think for our brewery, one of the things that I really cared about when starting it was not the beer. That was not my passion. That was my husband's passion. But starting a retail, customer service driven business that really provided a space that was a community space was really important to me. And we, being self-funded, didn't write a business plan, didn't really do financial projections, just kind of did it. And so I didn't really think about, what would my job be in the future, and what would I be doing, what would our space be like. And right now, most of my job is event planning. We do tons of events in our space. We do fundraisers, we bring the community together. And that has been the most meaningful and fun part of it for me. It's also helped us find really great employees who really not only like beer but love who we are in our community and want to be a part of that and really support us and can show that in how they present themselves as the face of our business. And the care that they give to it and the feedback that we're given from them about concerns that they have, about ways that they can improve, has really been big for us. And about like the, where you kind of are up in the business. We have weekly meetings with our taproom managers, and there are 5 of us that get together. We just talk about things. How are things going? How can we do things better? And really, I'm not my employee, so I don't know for sure how they feel. But I feel like that there's kind of that, I can say anything, and, I can just tell them that something's horrible or it's good or whatever, and it's going to be taken really well, and together we're going to problem solve and make it better. And that it's not a scary conversation, and it's really about increasing the friendliness of our space and really how it is for the customer.
Love it.
So for our team, it's always been about building a lot of value into the product. And when there's a lot of value, it's something you want to share with your friends, right? So whether it's a coupon that's, this is fantastic, Lululemon's having a huge sale, right? And everyone runs down there. With us, we just try to build a lot of value in the product, and that sharing creates a community because everyone wants to be a part of something. So for us, it's everyone wants to be part of the e-bike gang now, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit about Seattle and advocacy. The first question that I have is, how did Seattle become your headquarters? Was it by chance? How has that changed now that we keep growing and growing? And these are many questions. And then also, why do you choose to stay here? So you can answer any of those questions.
I guess I can start. I'm from here, and clearly we were continuing our day jobs when we were starting the business, so it had to stay local. And my husband literally got on his bike and biked around until he found a spot, a couple areas that looked good, and called the numbers on the buildings, and we ended up in our space in Ballard, which is not where we lived in Capitol Hill at the time, but we moved to Ballard, and it has become our home because that's where our business is, and we want it to be walkable to our business so we can walk to work.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Or you could e-bike to work too.
I could, but by the time I turn it on, I'd be there. Yeah.
I think Seattle's really well suited for businesses that have a high growing headcount because real estate's less expensive here, both an office space compared to San Francisco or another major tech hub, and then just West Coast. So it's just the most logical place for us. Plus a major growing bike community here. Obviously,
Sure.
so bike lanes going in this year now.
Sure.
So it's all good.
Any other thoughts?
I don't have a particularly interesting answer to this one, so I can skip it.
Yeah, I was in North Carolina, and then he lived out here, so I was like, stay in North Carolina, go to Seattle.
And where were you in North Carolina?
Right on the coast, near Atlantic Beach.
Okay. I lived in Wilmington for a
okay.
while, so yeah.
That's pretty
But
close.
a lot of manufacturing jobs are in Wilmington, in North Carolina.
I was looking for an
Fletcher.
adventure too, so yeah.
What about corporate social responsibility? A lot of people care about that. It's just as important as your product or what you're offering. So how have you built advocacy into your company from the very beginning, and also how has it changed or grown?
We started out with what I referred to as sitting in the white guy hole, which was we're 3 white guy co-founders building a product that was really designed to unlock creativity for everybody. And we knew that we would fail if we, all over 40, if we all just built a product for people like us. And so we sat down early and often and said, how do we build a diverse company from the outset so that we have a company that reflects the customers that we aspire to have? My short test is something matters to a business if the business spends money on it. So my first question was, how do I spend money building a diverse company? And we wound up spending a lot of money on lawyers. And part of that was we created a program where we actually pay for diverse referrals who get hired. So if somebody refers somebody to the company, actually what I should say is if somebody starts working at the company, we say, hey, was there somebody you referred to and do you consider yourself underrepresented in tech? And if the answer to both of those is yes, then we pay that person $5,000. And it took 3 months and I don't know how many lawyer bills to make that pass muster as a program that we could do legally. We do things like we publish our healthcare plan on the company website so that if you're a trans person, if you're going through, if you've got pregnancy, if you're planning for that, or any number of other medical conditions, you can see if our insurance works for you without having to ask an embarrassing question of your recruiter. And we do things like recruit from all sorts of diverse sources. Once people show up for an interview, it's the best person gets the job. So we have to work really hard to bring in diverse folks at the recruiting stage so that we have our pick of great people. What turned out was that after we hired a few great people from diverse backgrounds, then word got out and we started getting amazing candidates we never would have had access to who were leaving top tier tech companies and saying, hey, I hear you're not a terrible place to work. It turns out that not being a terrible place to work is a strategic asset when you're trying to recruit amazing people. So that's really been something that we've spent a lot of time and energy on as a cause that matters to us as a company.
That's awesome. Anyone else have any thoughts on that one? That's a great answer. Can't follow up on that. Okay. There was one that I had that
I should just finish with the brag that we're now more than half women and over 25% people of color and underrepresented minorities. So it finally worked after 3 years.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, as I was going to say, to follow up on that, with everyone, so as you do scale up, how do you make sure that you continue to have a positive company life for the people who work for you? Because that can be difficult, too.
Yeah, we're undergoing that challenge right now. We're kind of growing out of our startup phase. We're over almost 70 employees now. So now we're trying to make the decision: do we go into like a conventional office space where the human space is more efficient, or we keep that more startup-y culture? And we're definitely going towards the more industrial chic feel. So we're proud to try to maintain the ping pong table is critical. The beer on Fridays is critical. Just that kind of stuff, that social environment. Plus, all of our employees get an electric bike as soon as they start working there, which is important to kind of bring the whole team together and also make it easier to get to work with a smile on your face.
Yeah, that's great.
I think for us, we build in kind of health and performance into the culture quite a bit. So it's kind of something that just started with a small group of people and has really taken over. And I think it's also supported by like one of our key philosophies, which is don't make unnecessary rules. So if you don't make unnecessary rules and you hire great people, you give them the freedom to do what they want to do, then they tend to self-organize and create awesome systems to take care of each other and have meaningful relationships and do a good job.
Oh yeah, they want to work harder for you. Just some easy questions. What did you learn the hard way about starting a business that you wish someone had told you before you started?
Keep it simple.
Yeah,
that's really.
We some people want to introduce very complex financial wranglings, and it's at the end of the day, just like you need more money to flow into the business than flows out. That's it. Like, that's all you need. And don't let anybody tell you that it's more complex than that.
It's 2 numbers.
If they're telling you that it's more complex than that, you should run away very quickly.
Okay. What about, what do you think is like the most important trait for someone, like an entrepreneur, to have? Is it grit? Is it passion? Is it intelligence? I don't know. What do you think helps?
Resiliency.
Yeah.
You just have to get your ass kicked all day long and show up at 7 the next morning and be like, let's go again.
Yeah.
Right on.
Hit the reset button.
I like that, being able to hit the reset button. Oh, I know. Here's one for you guys. So what's your can't live without gadget? That's not your own.
Tabb.
I have this thing called Oura Ring, which tracks all kinds of sleep and performance metrics like heart rate variability, and it's helped me a ton to get in better shape.
Can you get it here?
I don't think you can get it here, but they have a similar product called the Motive Ring.
Oh.
Right there next to you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it's very similar to that. It provides really nice analytics about, your heart rate variability, which is a good proxy for your readiness to perform, how well you slept the night before, and we've got a bunch of other people in the company that have jumped on board and it's helped them too. Like this guy. This guy's also from Freefly.
Nice.
Styling over there.
Anybody else?
This guy's got a lot of gadgets. What's your favorite gadget?
Oh, my gadgets?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been paring down lately. Of course, I'd say smartphone, but that's boring. So.
But that's still, I mean, a necessity that we all have.
It is. I mean, these days I try to like either turn it off or turn off notifications, but it's still very important. So.
Well, I don't know. I would say on the opposite of that, we didn't have internet at home when we started, and that was a really good decision on my part, I would say, because it forced me to separate myself from my business when I went home. I mean, I had a smartphone, but we also have a no phones in the bedroom rule and all kinds of stuff like that. So it was a really great decision, and it also saves money when you're strapped for money. But we moved into a place, and I got mad at Comcast and just never got around to setting it up because I didn't want to call them back. So anyway, but I guess my bike would be, that's what I would do. I also have a Garmin watch. I've done an Ironman and triathlons, and so that's my escape, is working out, or was until I got pregnant. Now I don't know what I do. But
You sleep and
I
you
sleep
eat.
a lot. Yeah.
What about? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask if I could go back to what I wish somebody told me.
Oh yeah,
Because I was
please.
reminded when you talked about phone, which was SparkFi 2 companies ago. I realized I was tearing myself apart because I had young twins at home. At the time they were 2 or 3, and every single night I would go, okay, here's this work thing. Maybe it's a networking event, or maybe it's I need to stay late and do this, or whatever else. And there's my family waiting for me at home. Which is more important, my family or my job? And you cannot ask yourself that question every day without driving yourself crazy. And it took me months before I finally realized just the simplest solution, which was I sat down with my wife and said, here's what I'm thinking, which is I'm gonna be home for dinner at least 4 nights a week. And she's like, that's fantastic. And I was like, yes. And then I have 3 nights when I'm gonna work, and I can trade work off against work, and I can be home 4 nights a week, and then I can feel good about that. And so I'm not tearing myself apart. So that notion that you said about making space for what's the business and where does the stress go, and then breaking away from that and drawing some room to be apart from that, I think is crucial to keeping yourself focused and sane and being your best at your job.
And see, I think that's so refreshing to hear from you guys, because I feel like you don't have to be an entrepreneur or a CEO or super creative mind to be someone who is working 24/7 and not knowing when to turn it off, or feeling pressure, like you want to turn it off, but then I'm still like in my bed like this, and I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this, so it's refreshing to hear, like setting rules with your family or for yourself, and trying to live those out, I think.
I actually can't execute it myself, so I check my phone in with my fiance when I get home.
Wow, nice.
Good point.
Clever in it.
That's great. When do you get it back? In the morning?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask too, what other creative outlets do you have, or what do you do outside of work that kind of keeps you a balanced human being? Or do you have any?
No. What happened was I used to have a wood shop in my garage, and I learned woodworking and built tables and all that. And then the kids were born, and it takes 30 minutes to set up and 30 minutes to clean up, and that's more time than you have in any contiguous space from your parent. So I started goofing around and building drones and RC airplanes and other stuff, because at least you go and dabble for 15 minutes, but I always want to make things with my hands. And then when I got a hold of this giant industrial carbon dioxide cutting laser that I imported from a factory in China and installed in my garage, which is this terror in my garage, and figured out how to use it, I had this moment of delight. And so the reason I was making that face was because it's a total cliche, but what I do for my creative outlet is use this product And it's so amazing because I can sit down and I can play around for 15 minutes, I can hit print, I can hold something, and then like, hey, I made this. And for the first time in my life, I've actually had like my family and friends be like, hey, could you take that thing you do for a living and like, you know, can I do that too? Or could you make something for me? So I think having that creative outlet is crucial. And I'm just in the weird place where my passion and my hobby intersect, which is pretty awesome.
That's great.
If you're in that place.
Yeah,
I think
for
all
sure.
4 of us have
Yeah.
found that.
Yeah, so we hold pretty sacred our like late night after hour e-bike builds in our R&D area. So like all the tech guys will get together and maybe sometimes drink a few too many beers, but usually just the right amount, and build basically crazy e-bikes. So whether it's drift trikes or high-powered e-bikes, but off-road only, of course.
I'd like to see those. That'd be kind of cool. I'm just curious too. Were you all creative children, or I mean, did you have people in your life who influenced you to?
Is this a nice way of saying did I misbehave?
Well, I always think that's inspiring. You know, were you like the person to check off like all their things for their grades, or were you creative kids? Did you have someone who said like, be as creative as you can? Did you have good influences?
Yeah, I mean, the first e-bike that I built when I was 15 years old was like made out of random scraps ripped out of appliances, and so I just running around the house with all the wiring was held together with a salsa container. So I've had that through, and that's why it's hard for me to stare at screens all day. So I do have to like break away for a few hours each day to like really get back with the product team, and like focus on what I'm feeling here.
Sure, yeah.
I think like being curious is one of the main things that I know both Tabb and I have always been curious about how things work, and then once you kind of learn how they work, then you're like, well, what can happen next? Like, what's the next thing? And then you just, I don't know, you start thinking about new ideas. So.
Yeah, being curious. I love that. What time is it? Because I know we close at 9, so I just want to make sure that everyone has a chance to.
7:40.
Oh, okay. And I want you guys to be able to network as well. So, does anyone have any questions, or do you want to throw out any stories?
I think brand is about the most important thing you can do in your business. So, the brand you started with, is that still the brand that you believe in today? Who's got stories that say, yep, I'm there, and others that say, no, I changed?
For us, we've definitely kept the brand, and we don't really outsource anything, but we outsource branding. And I think that was one of the smartest decisions we did, was to hire, I mean, he was a friend, but a graphic designer who really spent the time to dive into what that looks like, and then was able to take what we had as this vision and this passion and really put it into something that represented that, and then has continued to help us along the way. Take that, and as we create new beers and all of that, kind of continuing with the themes that are meaningful and important to us. And the bicycling part of our business, so we're like a bike focused brewery, I guess. There's always been a bike on our product, and it's been a part of it, and it's been very visible within our space. And the nonprofits that we support, and now I'm on board of directors of bicycle community groups and stuff. So it's really continued to be even a bigger part of my life, I think, than it was at the beginning. I kind of lived into it.
I think our brand has stayed aligned. I would just say in the beginning, if you asked us what our brand is, we're probably a little bit aspirational in describing it back then, but I think we have achieved a point where we're actually living up to what those early aspirations were. We were kind of BSing a little bit for the first year.
That's okay.
Painting the vision.
Yeah, exactly.
We had some room to grow.
Who else has a question?
So, Brendan might give you the answer to this question partly, but just wondering along the way if you realize, okay, I need some help, I need an expert in something that I'm lacking, that for my business to work, where you found your weak point, and did you wind up finding something like that, getting some consulting, whether it's a firm or professional, what that looks like?
Yeah, so for us, we've done this like 6 times, where we get like the valley of death, but of our employee base, where we just don't have enough people, and then we hire 10 or 15 more people. So you feel that early on, but it never goes away. You just keep having a rhythm, but each time the valley gets a little less deep.
I think about that, and I almost caution the opposite, which is so many times I've seen like, I don't know how this should work. I don't know how Facebook ads work. I don't know how to pitch to a journalist. I'm going to go hire an expert. And then you find out, like $5,000, $10,000 later, and lots of time and energy that, okay, they did the thing that they do, but you didn't get the level of genuineness, you didn't get the level of connection, you didn't get the same experience that you would have if somebody in your company, you or somebody you're working with, had gone and done that themselves. So sometimes, absolutely bring in consultants, bring in experts and the like, but I've seen the mistake made the opposite more often, which is, oh, I'm just going to trust this person with my blank, and then that person doesn't have the skin in the game, doesn't have the passion, doesn't have the depth. And so you do better as a passionate amateur who loves your product in your company than as a skilled consultant who's going to leave at the end of the day.
Just going on with what Dan said, even with news and stuff, we get so many poorly written and executed pitches from people who I know get paid well. And I don't want to knock any PR folks because some of them are awesome. But I'm always surprised that someone's getting paid to give these pitches to us. They feel very impersonal. They feel they're like 20 pages long. We need who, what, when, where, why. And in some cases, you can do that. I get better pitches in tweets, sometimes than actual emails. And that's a very good point because, we like innovation. We like to hear new things. And we get in the grind of the Attorney General put this out, and we get into crime or whatever. So we don't always have the space, the bandwidth, to do these innovative stories. But if you sell it to me and you tell me why it's important, we always make time for it. So that's a really good point because people do spend a lot of time and energy in people who are not invested in you or your product.
I would also add to that just asking people who have done it before. We were obviously, there's other breweries in Seattle. They're not going to want another one. I mean, we weren't there's a lot now, and they're great. And they've come to us, and I might think well, we don't need another brewery, but I'm going to tell you everything I got. And part of it is, it's a sense of pride for them. They work through it. They're excited about it. They know that you're trying yourself and very willing to share. The amount of knowledge that people are willing to give you for free is incredible.
They're also drunk.
Sometimes. And just calling. I mean, I have called every governmental agency, typically not telling them who I am, because I don't know if I'm doing things right or not. And so, then I ask, hey, if someone were to do this, what do you think? Or, hey, there's this, how do you pay this tax? And they just tell you. People are so willing to help. And so that's something that I would say that we didn't do as much at the beginning that I think we should have, was asking.
And if you do need to hire somebody, don't hire the person who says they're going to help you. Hire the person who helped you. The person who sat down, spent an hour, and you're like, oh, I understand now. And also, could you do that?
Great.
So, can you tell us a story of customers using your product that really gave you joy or inspired you? Just something pops to mind.
I mean, we get a lot of people with disabilities with an electric bike with added motor power. So that's been a real joy for us, just seeing people become mobile again and being able to explore in ways you can't with maybe a wheelchair or another assistive device. So.
That's awesome. I never even thought about that. That's great.
Our internal company motto is we have the best customers because we have the best customers. And there are so many things I see that just make my heart soar, from a pediatric cardiologist who designed a training rig so that people could practice a surgery on a tester instead of an actual child, which was the state of the art before. I'll do this stitch, you do that stitch, and now for $50 there's this thing where they can go and practice. To people who quit their job. There's a woman who worked retail in Redmond and quit her job to go work from home full-time with her daughter as a cosplay props designer because she got her Glowforge and now she could do that. To a woman who had gone back to work because she had a business on Etsy selling handcrafted leather masks, but because she had arthritis, she couldn't do the precision cutting anymore. And then she got her Glowforge and she started using her Glowforge to do that work so she could go back to working for herself. Like, building tools that become a part of people's lives is just amazing, and getting to hear those stories is the best part of my day.
Who's telling your stories for you?
I go to #Glowforge on Instagram anytime I'm feeling sad, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like 20 minutes ago somebody made that. It's incredible.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna find those people.
When somebody recommends my business to me, that's a good day.
Oh.
That's awesome.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Sales doing it Brad Cycle. I went to your store with some colors. Totally crowded. We're out doing demos and everything. Looks like you're doing really well. How's it going?
Yeah, sales are good. We had so we've been going in and out of stock this spring. We ordered to a certain level, and then we've had to spool up production in ways that have never been done before in the e-bike industry, that's for sure. So today we had stock come back in, so we had a line of about 60 people at the door in a little Ballard bicycle shop, which is really unusual, but fun to see and also painful. And there's 61 people, and the last person in line doesn't get a bike, and they have to wait another week. So it's a good and bad problem to have, right?
Your teams all seem really passionate about the things they do. Outside of having a cool product, what do you do to foster a culture in the company?
For me, it's tell the truth. Just, I kind of think of like truth as its own economy, and you can either tell the whole truth at every moment in the business, or you're going to accrue a big truth debt in the future, and you're going to have to reconcile that. So
It always comes back.
Just tell the truth.
Yeah.
But also happy hour.
and
Thanks, Cindy.
Anybody else? Don't be shy.
As mostly hardware companies, when you're building a product, you go through so many prototypes. How did you know when this one prototype was the one? You're like, okay, this is where we're going to stop, and we're going to sell this one. And how many prototypes did it take till you got to that point?
It's when you run out of money. That's when you need to start shipping.
Yeah, pretty much it.
That's a good point.
No, but seriously, I think for us, you have to you have to build a prototype that you fall in love with, and you have to be connected enough to your industry to know that that love is genuine and that other people will feel the same way about it. And that love for the product has to be strong enough that you're going to cut, a check for $500,000 in tooling, or whatever the specifics might be with launching that specific hardware product. But there's definitely a day in the product development cycle where you have to say, like, I'm committed to this, we're buying the parts for it, we're cutting the tools for this, and it really, on most of the preceding days to those, it ends up with like Dave and I taking a long walk and kind of red teaming the whole thing and saying, what are the ways in which this could go wrong? And of those possible universes that exist, which are the ones that kill us, and have we mitigated those well enough? And we built probably, like for the Movi, for example, probably 40 prototypes before we went into production.
We have time for a couple more questions.
Where do you see your businesses going, like wildest dream kind of pinnacle stuff? And then as your businesses have grown, like how has that, vision and maybe like dreamscape changed? Like pinnacles, and then, once you get there, like looking up.
We want to replace everyone's second car to begin with, and then we want to replace everyone's first car. So that's the goal. But yeah, so we just want to create there's a transportation revolution occurring. The ultimate form of single occupancy vehicles, an electric bike, whether it's got a cover on it or you're out in the elements with a rain jacket on when it's raining out. So now it's just about getting one in everyone's hands. So it's about getting people to test ride electric bikes, because most people have no idea what they're even like. As soon as you get on it, you get the EV grin, and then you just basically have to buy one.
In 20 years, we're going to be selling you the Star Trek replicator, and today you can go to glowforge.com and get as close as possible to right now. Same since we started.
This may be not applicable to y'all, but I feel like one of the things that people worry about when they start pursuing turning their passion into a career is that they'll become disenchanted with it. Maybe lose that spark. So I'm curious, like, if y'all have ever gotten close to
I can definitely empathize with that, because I think, at least with my specific personality, where I'm most engaged and most fun is finding new spaces. And so there comes a time in a business where you have found the space, you found product market fit, you're ramping up. But that really takes somebody who's more of like an algorithmic business doer at that point, that wants to optimize and refine the system rather than find new spaces. So I think it's really important to figure out what kind of person you are and where you're best. Because I'm definitely not best like extracting an additional 5% margin out of a product line. I'm much better at finding the next thing that we're going to do. And if you try and, if you try and fit me into that box, it's going to be bad for everybody.
Any more? Any more questions? I have one last question. So if people want to find out more about you, your company, or maybe have some follow-up questions when they leave, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, we have a tasting room in Ballard, so you can come there and taste our product and hang out in our large beer garden, which is awesome in the summertime. Or you can buy our product in stores, or you can email Peddler. I am the one who checks the emails, so I will get your email and can respond to you.
Yeah, my email is mike@radpowerbikes.com with an S at the end, not bike. Very important. And then hashtag RideRad on social media.
I'm Dan Shapiro on Twitter, and that's usually the best way to get my attention. And if you want to learn more about Glowforge, if you've got a phone, type this in, glowforge.com/FOD. That's my friend of Dan discount. So you can get up to $500 off a Pro delivered in about a week.
So my email is Dave@Freefly Systems, and you can follow everything that Freefly is doing, mostly on Instagram. It's where we're most active. We do a lot of live events and fun stuff on there. Or you can contact Cindy.
Cindy loves it. She's all about contacting.
She
is.
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of what you have done and where you want to go. We really appreciate it. I know that everyone wants to kind of meet you personally and mingle, so I think we'll probably wrap it, right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Was happy enough to let one of you guys be a lucky winner for the extra wallet. Sean, our general manager, walked around handing out these tickets, and now we're doing the drawing, so we'll be the honors.
Gotta get down to the bottom.
Alright, so ticket number 2174. It's the winner. 2174.
I never win, but I
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Before you guys leave.
Ooh. But wait, there's more.
Wait, there's more.
But wait.
Not two.
Moby decided to join into the festivities, and the winner wins a movie.
Which is this thing for people that
This
don't know.
thing right there.
Oh, wait. I grabbed two. They're stuck together.
If you win, I'll do it for it.
Alright, so lucky winner 21731.
Oh, come on, let's bring this together.
2173.
I think that's me.
What?
I'm so excited about this.
You guys enjoy the rest of the night.
Holy shit, dude.
Damn.
Thank you guys.